Mm, mm, mm,
And at the tail end of that, the cardiologist looked at me and said,
mm,
no one is more surprised than I was when I'm living with a rare heart condition. He said, in this condition, you'll be fine by now.
mm,
Months later, there was open heart surgery. I owe it to the research and life-saving medical breakthroughs developed by the American Heart Association. That's why I'm asking you to join me in becoming a
mm, mm,
Please call now. Go to helpheart.org. For only $19 a month, just 63 cents a day, you can help fund the next medical breakthrough, get the next person trained in CPR, and get the next hospital certified in
mm,
cardiovascular care. This could happen to me, it could happen to anybody. Heart disease is America's #1 killer. Your support can save your life or the life of someone you love. Give $19 a month.
mm,
We'll send you this special T-shirt you can wear to show you're part of a community of monthly donors working to help
mm,
save more lives like mine. I'm grateful for the American Heart
mm,
Association. Their research gave me more time to do the things I love for the people.
mm,
So listen,
mm,
I'm here today.
mm,
Call the number on
mm,
board, wholeheart.org now. For
mm,
help save. Thank you.
mm, 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 mm.
People hear us out there?
Are we rolling?
We can now, yes.
Okay.
All right, like to open the January 20th, 2026 Board of Health meeting for the town of Millis.
Second.
Okay, I got a second, all in favor. All right, first on the agenda is the nurses report. Yeah, pop that up.
This is Ann McManus. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So flu cases continue to be high. In Massachusetts, Department of Public Health feels that we may have reached our peak. We're noticing some simultaneous COVID cases in the same individuals, mostly elderly and children under 5, which is quite worrisome. Flu vaccine continues to be available. I have been doing home visits for people who are unable to come to a clinic. I'm available with hours at the Board of Health every Tuesday for vaccine. However, I have not had any response to that. I continue to work with the Council on Aging Director to establish a program for the senior citizens. I'm going to be looking at the survey that the UMass Boston and the Hebrew Rehab did, questioning seniors in Millis and Medway on what their needs are, what would enable them to continue to age in place. And those meetings will continue, and we'll hopefully have a program available in April. For the month of the end of December and up until this point in January, we've had 25 flu cases, which is higher than last year. We've had 13 COVID cases and 2 Lyme cases. Do you have any questions?
Any questions from the board?
None for me.
All right, be interesting to hear what your study in April comes out to be.
Yes, we're looking at actually having either a panel or response to some of the concerns that the seniors had. And one of them was substance abuse. And we do have access to a lot of practitioners in our shared service and with Amy, our social worker, to address this.
That's interesting.
Mhm.
Any questions from the public here? Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
6:09 PM. Next on the agenda is a discussion with RGE and Toll Brothers. Following up on the letter of concern that was sent back in September. Let's see, do we have Cornell? We got Cornell. Do we have Toll Brothers represent
You're online.
online? Okay.
Yep,
All right.
I'm here.
Okay, all right.
So who would you like to report in first, or how do you want to handle this?
Yeah, so in that letter, there was a 60-day window
Yeah,
in which to respond, so we are out at about 120 days. So I think for me, it'd be useful to get a status of the actions we requested you respond to and see what the status is.
let's start with Toll Brothers.
Okay.
Yeah, it may be easier for me to start. So the 60-day window that you described ended somewhere in the middle of November, where we submitted a report from Tony Capello, who is here with us tonight. And we subsequently had a Board of Health meeting. I attended, and we talked about setting up a time where he could come describe his report to the board. Ultimately, we landed on today. So Tony is with us today. I also have Garrett Trago here today, who submitted the cover letter that accompanied the report. And I mean, it's up to the board, but I think it might be helpful for Tony to go through that report and describe it to you and answer any questions that you might have. Does that make sense to you?
That sounds like a good plan.
Great. Tony, take it away.
All right. Can everybody hear me all right?
We do.
Excellent. Excellent. And tell me which would be best, if I should share the report so it's up on the screen, or should I just talk about it? I just want to see what you all prefer.
You could share
Very
your
helpful to have the report up there.
Yeah, I can share from my end. Yeah, definitely. And then I can walk through it as well as we kind of go through and share that. Just let me know when you can see. Do you guys see the report by chance?
No, we see your Google for
Oh, on the other side. Let me try that again. Hold on one second. Let me stop that. Share again. All right. How is that?
There you go.
Yes.
Wonderful. I'll make that a little bit bigger. Maybe that was too big.
Oh, that's good.
That's good. Okay, fantastic. All right. Well, first of all, thank you very much for taking the time, and I appreciate the invite. And like was just mentioned, I'll kind of go through the report, mostly focusing around the executive summary. Obviously, there's everything that's touched on in the executive summary is also mentioned below in the report. But I figured for the board's timing, you probably don't want me to go through every word of the 17 to 20 page report. But of course, happy to answer any questions as was mentioned before. Just a quick background. My name is Tony Capello, and I'm currently a principal scientist and epidemiologist at Insight Exposure and Risk Sciences Group. And we're headquartered in Boulder, Colorado, but we have clientele across the United States, as well as folks that are on our team that are across the United States. And we are a scientific consulting firm that specializes in human health risk assessment. Before I got into this consulting realm, I spent around 15 or so years in public health, governmental public health at both the state and local level. So I served as the executive director for a Northeast Colorado Health Department, which is a 6-county health department, and then also served just most recently as the director of disease control for the state of Colorado. And in that role, I also served as the Colorado State environmental epidemiologist. And then in around 2014, I was appointed to the Colorado State Board of Health, where I served as board president, as appointed by the governor of Colorado and confirmed by the state Senate. I also have experience as an adjunct professor, so I have been teaching public health subjects since around 2012, and that's included classes, both teaching and writing, graduate level courses in epidemiology, environmental health, and public health leadership and administration. And then really my educational background is a PhD in public health with an epidemiology specialization, master of public health, a bachelor's in environmental health, and I'm also a registered environmental health specialist. So with that behind us, we'll move into the executive summary. And what you'll see here, if you've read the report and reviewed this, the first kind of part of my report is focused around the background, just some information that's really important to review and understand about Legionella. Then I'll talk a little bit about what we found from the documentation and information that was provided to me. And then I end that with some conclusions and some recommendations based on that information. So first off, starting in that paragraph number 5, that you see up on your screen. Really important to note that Legionella is everywhere within the environment. So we consider that ubiquitous, which means that it just naturally occurs. It's widespread in natural bodies of water. It can be in soil and through aquatic systems. So that could be rivers, lakes, streams, and even coastal areas. Because it's everywhere, Legionella is also commonly found in man-made water systems. So it can find its way into wells. It can find its way depending on where that water system gets its water, whether that's from a lake, a stream, or like I said, even a well. So in that case, it's pretty normal that you're going to see concentrations of Legionella in really any public water system or building water system, particularly even if it's well treated and it's flowing correctly. So when there is an environmental sampling event, because of its widespread availability in the environment and in man-made systems, it's very normal to find Legionella at some point when you're sampling. And because of that, it's considered really a normal process to, one, identify it, but two, it's considered a normal, like the microflora within pipes and buildings. They develop like a biofilm. That Legionella can kind of inhabit those areas, particularly even in older systems that may have had a very long time for biofilm to develop. So with that in mind, it's really, if you find Legionella, it doesn't always necessarily mean there's a human health risk effect or disease transmission, or in this case, an established public health concern. That takes a little bit more evaluation on our side, both in that kind of environmental health and epidemiology realm. And I'll talk a little bit about that as we go through this. The second thing to mention is that temperature fluctuations in drinking water, and particularly groundwater, and also if anything's being pulled from surface water, that will naturally fluctuate with the season. So we typically see across the US, in the summertime, our groundwater, our surface water, our drinking water will start to increase in temperature in the spring and summer months. And then, of course, as temperatures start to drop, we see that decline again in the fall and in the winter. And so consequently, it's really kind of difficult to make sure there's a constant water temperature, I would say, in like drinking water. But I'd say the biggest concern that we're seeing just in the last several decades as scientists have begun to study this is that we know that just temperatures in the US and globally continue to increase. And alongside that, we're starting to see an increase in groundwater temperatures. And so as that's continuing to increase, that just makes it all the more difficult to control. And in that case, it's very difficult to promulgate rules or regulations on cold water requirements, right? It's easy to heat water. If you have a water heater and individual buildings, it's a lot more difficult and usually not cost effective to try to chill water going into buildings and so forth. So with that, because Legionella is ubiquitous in the environment, it's normally found everywhere. There's natural trends in water temperature increasing. It's also very hard to set maximum contaminant levels for Legionella. Those aren't the only two reasons, but it does make it pretty difficult. So across the United States, there really isn't a level that any governmental public health or regulatory agency says you shouldn't have this level of Legionella, which makes it very difficult to also keep an eye on that. But what's really great about that is that the CDC has developed what we call guidelines. And what these guidelines do is they establish a way to control Legionella within drinking water systems that humans would be exposed to or use regularly and drink water or be around water. And the important part to note there is that it's controlling. These guidelines are for controlling, not eliminating. Because again, it would be almost impossible to eliminate all Legionella in any kind of drinking water system because it is naturally there. And importantly, these guidelines then kind of take it a step further, is that it's important to note that these are more like performance indicators. When you do a water sampling test, they're not indicators of human health risk. To get into that more established human health risk, there's a couple other things that need to be taken into consideration. And these guidelines really start to hit that from the CDC. And what they look at is kind of they call it a multifactorial approach, which they look at, of course, what is the concentration of maybe a single water sample, but they also look at what is the concentration change over time. And that's important because you can actually have a certain concentration. Let's say there's one, CFU per milliliter within a water system that doesn't change over time. That's actually considered well controlled because it's not adjusting, it's not increasing risk. And so that's why CDC includes that. The other one is colonization. And what that is what do we see across the entire system? If we're seeing a hit here or there, that's very normal and that's very much expected. But if you're seeing hits on every single sample and those samples are elevated, then there may be a concern that we need to look into. And then the last part of that, which is probably the most important when you're looking at it of a disease control perspective, is which Legionella species are we talking about? And that will kind of lead us right into number 8 here. And the importance of that is that there's over 60 different species of Legionella and actually more than 70 serotypes, most of which do not cause illness. So the one that you hear probably the most, whether that's been in news articles or published literature on Legionella, Legionellosis outbreaks, so that's like Pontiac fever or the Legionnaire's disease, is what they call Legionella Legionella pneumophila, or I always say this wrong, pneumophila, sorry, serogroup 1, which I always call LP1. And that's going to cause nearly 90% of all of the infections that we see regarding Legionella. In contrast, there are serogroups of that same species. Usually they range from 2 to 14. They're rarely, if ever, found in any kind of illnesses or outbreaks related to Legionella infection. And then, of course, there's the non-Pneumophila species, and those are not associated with Legionella. And so that's really why it's very important to take a look at or make sure you're sampling for that species, because you could end up with for example, a very high level of Legionella, but if it's one of those non-Pneumophila species, then the risk of infection is really zero. So it can be very concerning at first to see a high level, but then we have to kind of go through these other specific assessments to determine what that public health risk is. And even the CDC in their guidelines will say, water sampling is great, but what we really need to know is all of these factors together, particularly the species, so we can determine what that public health risk is. And so when we were looking at the information that was sent to me, when I took a look at that, there were 30 samples that were taken, and 2 of those samples were over what the CDC would consider the well-controlled, but the entire system in itself were well-controlled. So those 2 samples were also very minimally over the 1 CFU per milliliter that the CDC recommends. And so when we look at it, the system as a whole, we don't see an increased risk. So even without the Legionella species, the water system would still be considered well-controlled at this point for Legionella growth. And we would like to see that moving forward, of course, the speciesization, but just that level that we're seeing would not consider what I would consider a public health risk at this point, and what we're seeing with the specific information that was provided. So based on the information that I reviewed, and the fact that it would be considered well-controlled per CDC guidelines, there would be no additional improvements at this point that we would recommend. In my work in Legionella, obviously there's times when whether it's an agency, it's a building owner, it's an infrastructure commodity, they want to also just say, well, we want to look at what else can we do? What else can happen? What else can we consider? And so this last part of the executive summary is exactly that, is that although these are not, I would say preemptive, they're considered preemptive, I guess, for epidemiology and environmental health purposes. They're not required because the system is considered well controlled, but it would be recommended if somebody wanted to look at this, whether that's the HOA or the group that's in charge of this facility, they could look at developing a water management plan. And I believe that that is currently underway, and they are already working on that. And of course, that should be according to CDC guidelines. And the other thing to look at is whenever we're looking at a water management plan through a system or whether it's a building, is it's always pertinent to look at where did we see some positive samples. And some of the positive samples, I believe, were located in a couple of the homes. And what we also do know from the literature on Legionella is that the water systems within the individual homes are not exempt from some of the practices that can increase water stagnation or temperature, and of course, microbial growth. And so we would want to make sure that any kind of water management plan would also include best practices that homeowners can also put into practice that could lower that risk of stagnation, chlorine degradation, and then of course, bacterial growth. So with that, that is really kind of, I would say, the main overview and kind of background of this report. And as I had mentioned before, each one of these sections is further outlined below. And I would happy to take questions at this time. And we can also pinpoint any of those sections as well in this report because I can drive to that as well. So it's on the screen.
I have a picture of the statement to this gentleman.
Go ahead.
So Legionella species, you have 5860. What testing would actually do that? Tell you what you have there? You know, labs that will do that?
Can I speak to that, actually?
Yeah.
If the, on the IDEX, website, which is the test that was used, it states that, it says that the, let's see how I can put this. It says that, that the test for, Legionella is specifically for the Legionella pneumonophilia species. So anything they're testing is actually that species. The company that collected the samples, Neshoba Analytical, also it also confirms that the test, the IDEX test that they use for the Legionella is specifically for that subspecies as well. So all the results are for the subspecies that is the Legionella for human illness. And those are
The most risky then.
the most risky, yes, yeah, and that's on both websites, the Neshoba website, Analytical, and the IDEX website. It specifically calls that out.
Now, I will mention that it will do that. However, they did not report what the species is. So the IDEX will actually detect that species. You are correct. But it will also detect the other species and the serogroups. So what's important for that analysis is we need to know which one it is, because again, there's, you know, there's 14 different serogroups of Legionella pneumophila. So we need to know, was that serogroup 1 or was that serogroup 2 through 14, or is that the non-pneumophila species? And so typically, anytime a lab does that and they speciate it, it will actually show which ones they are. And so that would be our recommendations to make sure that they are showing exactly which species that they're finding. And that usually takes an extra step for the lab to do. So that is correct. The IDX sample can do that. It doesn't appear that the lab then went and speciated and then reported that. So that would be what we would recommend, is they always report the exact species.
So another way to say it is, what could be in that tube is LP1 or LP serotype 14, which we know is less associated with disease, but we don't know that because this test sees 1 to 14. So that do you know, Tony, how they do those serology tests? Do you know what the antigens are that they look at?
On the IDX, I'm not 100% sure. I typically will see that the culture samples is kind of the most common that we see. But I have seen results where they will do that. And so I think it's usually, like you said before, asked like what lab. I would double check if this lab does do that. And if not, then recommend maybe another lab that can do the speciation. And to your point, yes, it could even be the non-pneumophilus species. In that case, we know definitely doesn't cause that. Or cause human illness. So I'm not sure exactly the reagents on the IDX, but it can do it because they do say that on their website as well.
do we have, who has the copy of the actual test results? Who has that? Do you have that? Wow.
We have
Yeah.
copies.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, copies.
Okay.
We have copies.
We have copies too?
Provided.
Okay, okay. The other thing that you mentioned in your executive summary is that there is no regulation for Legionella at state level. And that is, there are 6 states that actually do have Legionella state level regulations. With different states pulling out different criteria for the testing. States include New York, New Jersey, Illinois, Michigan, Ohio, and Virginia. And so, and they call out what type of facilities need to have that testing done. So for example, New York, healthcare facilities have to test drinking water. And in New York, they state that any positive Legionella test is a positive regardless of species. So they don't, in New York, they don't differentiate based on species. A positive is a positive. New Jersey is, they test for inpatient healthcare facilities, nursing homes, cooling towers, buildings associated with a cooling tower, and all large buildings with centralized or potable water heater systems. And they do not, in New Jersey, they do not differentiate through serotype. Illinois, nursing homes, hospitals, they do test, their testing involves speciation, and specifically the how am I gonna say this? Pneumophilia species specifically. I didn't get a chance to do Michigan, Ohio, and Virginia in depth, so, but those are, they do have state regulations, and those are kind of their parameters for it.
I will say there's a few ways, and I'm curious what Tony thinks, to interpret them not requiring the testing. Sometimes they'll say there's an at-risk population, we don't care, it needs to not be
Right.
there.
Right.
Sometimes it is that it's really difficult to find people to do the serology tests.
Mhm.
They usually involve custom reagents of antibodies.
Mhm.
And maybe they don't want to do that.
Mhm.
It could also be that they just have a really strict interpretation of it. So I say all that to say, I don't know that we want to just think that's the way to do it, but just
Right.
to understand that there's a nuance as to how that choice might have been made.
Right.
Does that sound correct to you, Tony? Is there anything else you would add?
Yes, I think that's a really great point. So first of all, I'll say number 7, that paragraph there, when I say there's no regulations, what I'm talking about here is there's no drinking water regulations, not a single state in the United States that has drinking water regulations for Legionella. So the situation exactly that we're in here today. And that is because there's no maximum contaminant level. Other states can adopt stricter standards. But what they will typically do is have regulations, or they'll have policies that say they highly recommend testing in areas that are known to be high risk. So hospitals and healthcare, like assisted care living, those are where we see the most outbreaks because people are usually immunocompromised or being medically treated. Other large buildings such as pool, like hotels, places with very large cooling towers. Typically cooling towers are the only regulated entity within the United States, and like was just mentioned, both New York and New Jersey have cooling tower regulations specifically for that reason. And in those regulations, they don't require any kind of public notification or even calling the health department unless those are over 1,000 CFUs per milliliter. So very high levels. But they are required to test that individual building, that individual owner. So it does break it down by what is the risk. Well, first, what are we looking at? We're not looking at drinking water systems. Those are not regulated, don't have it. But what is potentially regulated or reviewed is based on risk of a potential infection, because we know that most people exposed to Legionella do not develop the illness. It's usually people who have certain risk factors and or immunocompromised that will go on to develop that. So that's why they have those very specific requirements or potential recommendations in those specific facilities. And then to your point, with testing, is it can be very difficult to test, and it can be very difficult to get the specific tests taken on certain populations. Obviously, in a large drinking water system, it would probably be pretty expensive to have a full system monitored. But in like healthcare facilities where they might be smaller or it's assisted living, they may have the ability to test that. So there's a lot of factors that go into it, but drinking water systems definitely are not required to sample or have maximum contaminant levels for the level of Legionella.
Tony, this is Ted. Can you touch for a second on why there might be testing requirements in cooling towers or large scale buildings with centralized heating systems and why that's different maybe than what we're looking at?
Yeah, that's a really great question, Ted. So when we look at this from an epidemiological perspective, as I was mentioning, most people exposed to Legionella do not get infection. In fact, if you have ever been exposed to water, there is a very good chance, I would say almost 100% chance that you've been exposed to Legionella, whether that's in a pool, a spa, drinking water, showers, hotels, wherever you've been. So the way that we have to look at this is, what do we know are the highest risks? The highest risk for Legionella is anywhere that it can be aerosolized in very large quantities, the water, so that somebody can get it up into the air and they can breathe it in. So that's when you see like cooling towers, you see hot tubs, you see water features like fountains. Those are the kind of things that will produce a lot of mist that can get into the air that somebody could breathe in. And if they're susceptible, they can develop the illness. So that's why those are really considered the most probable and what we see the most outbreaks or illnesses related to. So that's why there'll be very specific recommendations or outlines specifically for those types of facilities. Was that what kind of you're looking at, Ted, on that?
Yeah, that was part of it. The other part was the heat generation.
Right. So Legionella likes to grow anywhere from 80 degrees to around 120. That's their optimal environment. And so hot tubs usually sit around there, cooling towers can sit around there. They can grow at pretty high levels, and then they also can be aerosolized. EPA, as I had mentioned in this report, typically with drinking water systems and cold water, we don't see a lot of risk with those because they usually have to be in that 80 or above for some long periods of time. And so since we know that temperature fluctuates and so does the groundwater temperature, we will see probably a spike, but that won't be something that's extended for months at a time or years at a time where we could see that growth. But for a pool or a spa, that's right in the maximum like place where Legionella likes to grow, and it can be aerosolized so that people can be exposed to that at high levels. And I think Glenn has a hand up, at least on my end.
Yes, hi Tony. Thanks for that information. I'm a resident here. I've been intimately involved in this problem, but my concern, you just answered part of it. The literature that I've read says that Legionella in general proliferates above 77 degrees. You said 80. And the thing is, though, that there are several homes here, including my own, that have 82 to 84 degree water for about a 3-month period. It's constant all summer, pretty much from June to September. And I just wondered how much of a concern that is.
That's a great question, Glenn. And so I'll start off is that when we look at Legionella and its human risk for illness probability, right, is we know that Legionella can proliferate by multiple factors. So temperature is one of those, right? The second is like your disinfection and making sure that there is actual disinfection and treatment going on. So you receive your water from a treatment plant that does provide chlorine. And then also with flow is without temperature, then it's flow. So are we actually seeing a lot of flow coming through there? So even if the temperature is higher and we're seeing a lot of flow, that can help the Legionella not grow because it has to have somewhere to stop and grow and hook onto biofilm. And then the other thing is biofilm. How much biofilm is within that? Those are kind of the 4 main topics. So temperature alone wouldn't be an issue that I would say. It would be kind of that combination of all 4 of those is when we typically see a lot of Legionella growth. And when I say a lot of Legionella, what I really mean is I think the 2 levels that we hit positive in the sampling that I saw, the 30 samples, there was one that was 1.5 CFU per milliliters, and I think the other one was 3.5. when we look at a lot of these outbreaks, we're seeing levels that are like in the thousands. And so that's when you see like a really high level we see, and we know those are associated with outbreaks. We see that in pools and spas and those kind of high risk areas that I was talking about before. But particularly in kind of those little lower levels, if there's flow and there's some chlorine and disinfection, and this is a new system, right? From what I've gathered, it's a newer facility. There's probably less biofilm. That risk is definitely brought down lower, kind of from those other factors.
When you say some chlorine, how, like some homes have measured as little as 0.01 and some as much as 0.35. For some reason, it's diminished from what's being delivered at the street level before it gets into the development. We're not really sure why it's diminishing, but when you say some, what it, you know, is 0.01 enough to, as long as there's some chlorine, any chlorine?
Right. No, another great question. So I'll answer that first part. You had made a really good point is it is pretty normal. We know that from the distribution system throughout any water system is that chlorine's going to naturally degrade because that's what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to attack, organic material, and it kind of loses its power, right? This is the simplest way to put it. And so it will continue to degrade as it goes through a water system. If it goes to areas, let's say like a fire hydrant or somewhere where we call those kind of like dead legs, that water will sit. And so even if it has a pretty decent residual over time, it just continues to degrade, right? And so we start to lose that level. In the United States, just to give you like comparable levels, is that what they recommend is they try to get chlorine as a minimum of 0.2 ppm, parts per million, to the maximum is 4 parts per million. So there's a pretty big range there. And so that can change based upon stagnation of the system. It can change based upon the timing of the year. As we were mentioning, temperature can also degrade that a little bit, but those are all very normal processes. The way that you look at that and determine if it's working effectively are what we call indicator tests. And so I saw that those were also provided in the review of materials that I saw. And there's 3 indicator tests that are typically used in public health to see, is a water system being treated? Are they seeing bacterial growth, and is chlorine being effective? And the first one is total coliforms. The other one is E. coli. And the third is what they call HPC, which is heterotrophic plate count. In looking at the results that were coming from RGE, there was no positive total coliform and there was no positive E. coli. And generally, all of the HPC, the heterotrophic plate count, were also under 500, which is the level we want to see. So in looking at that, it was all but one. That shows me that the water is being disinfected and the chlorine is working right at this point. And so those are kind of the indicator tests that we use to see that. And so what was provided to me in this case looks like the chlorine is at least working. It's always good to, in a water management plan, as I had mentioned before, monitor how much is coming in at the point, how much is degrading, and kind of keeping an eye on that. So that's stuff that can always be incorporated into like a water management plan moving forward if residents or the HOA are concerned in that aspect.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Thank you, Glenn.
Are there any other questions?
So one on one had 30 minutes.
Jim Bennell?
Yeah. One thing you mentioned was dead legs. And from what I can see in the water main topology is there's 2 dead legs at Glen Ellen. One is probably Tupelo and one is us on the west end of Richardson, where there's only consumers and there's no basically flow in a loop. Should that be a concern?
That's a good question. So, go ahead. Somebody else jump in.
Yeah, Tony, maybe I can jump in to
Yep.
make it a little bit easier. Tim, a lot of towns require a loop for a road that is, I think the length of cul-de-sac varies from town to town, but it's generally about 1,500 feet. And I think both of those are significantly less than that. That's more of a question for maybe our engineers than Tony. But the dead end legs that you see are pretty common and normal practice in Massachusetts.
Yeah, I figured, it's kind of, there's plenty of streets that must have, if they don't have an outlet, they most likely have a water supply that is a dead leg. So basically what you're saying is there's an okay length that if it's not exceeded, dead legs are all right.
I think that's what a engineer in Massachusetts would do. Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I would say the only thing I would add to that is just to support that in the fact that the water sampling we did see is well controlled, and so I think that's just an indicator, both in the bacterial indicator tests about the chlorine I was just talking about, but also the Legionella tests, all are within parameters that you would expect to see in a well controlled system.
Any other questions?
So I have two questions. Let me double check. So Tony, in section 24, you point out, it's usually 1,000 CFU or higher per mil that is associated with an outbreak. In any of these studies, did they pinpoint the reason as to why they saw the bloom of growth? I'm assuming it has something to do with, at least the 4 different variables you described, but I'm just curious, A, if it can be pinpointed, and B, if there are things that a population would look out for.
That's great. So in this study, there was, I think this is a meta-analysis that kind of reviewed a lot of this Leone. And so it looked at a lot of different studies. One thing that I didn't mention, so you're 100% correct. Those main 4 in a drinking water system, those are the ones that we really want to look for. It's like temperature, flow, biofilm, and disinfection and treatment, right? Now with these other high risk categories, they kind of introduce something that you don't see in a public drinking water system. And that is a large amount of people, like in a pool or a spa, let's use that for example, or, a hotel, a resort, those kind of things. A lot of times those are also exposed to the outdoor environment. So you have natural flow of potential water sources coming in, maybe runoff from sprinklers that are on a lawn, maybe it's next to a beach or a coastal environment, but then you also have people going in. So that bacterial load can grow very quickly when you kind of influence these other factors. And that would be part of what we're seeing. And then, as we had mentioned before, with pools and spas, you're in that really optimal growth temperature. And so if that water is not being properly disinfected or cleaned or filtered, that bacteria can just continue to grow. So there is a lot more difficulty in controlling some of those factors where we do see those increased risks. And that's why with a drinking water system, it's just a little bit different in that aspect. And we see it's normal to see these kind of low levels. You don't usually see 15,000, right? That's a pool and a spa or a cooling tower, stuff like that.
So another question I have is, let's see, towards the end. Guess it would be 42C. So you mentioned that 2 of 30 samples exceeding 1 CFU per mil is considered well controlled. When I looked through the CDC guidelines, and I only had a chance to, review them, it was really clear, like for a water tower, it would be measured as 1 water tower. I'm curious how you determine poorly versus well controlled in a community, because is it statistically that 2 out of 30 samples means something?
Sorry,
can you not hear? I think he's frozen.
Yeah, actually, no, I think it keeps breaking up on, it kept breaking up on there. I think I heard you were talking about a difference between drinking water systems and cooling towers is all that I kind of got out of that. I'm sorry.
Well, that's okay. I'll just repeat maybe more succinctly. I'm curious how 2 out of 30 samples is well controlled and what poorly controlled would look like. It's easy if you have a single system like a water tower, right, to say this is or isn't poorly controlled. But if you're looking at a community, do you do statistics? How do you determine what is well controlled or not? Sample wise, that is. Does that make sense?
Yes, well, and I'm looking at the CDC Legionella toolkit. And they're saying that poorly controlled is detection in more than one location within a water system.
Oh, I missed that.
Yeah.
There are multiple locations.
Right, and there's multiple locations. So by the CDC's criteria, it would be poorly controlled.
I think we lost.
I think we lost Tony.
Do you know what page you were on to find that?
It's figure 1 on the CDC Legionella.
Oh, it's on figure 1.
Yeah, yeah. So it's in the kind of teal colored
Mhm.
where it says poorly controlled. Second paragraph from the
Yeah, I
left.
see.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was looking through the whole document. I didn't see it that way.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's coming in good for a while.
Yeah,
I don't know what's going on here.
is he coming back?
I assume he will. There
Well,
he
I
is.
will say though, the next thing says detection in a few of many tested locations.
Mhm.
It's very open to interpretations. That's why I was
Well,
curious.
that's well controlled.
Oh, that's what I meant. Sorry. So you could argue that 2 out of 30 something is few.
Detected in a few of many. Right.
So that's why I was curious. Sorry, Tony, you dropped.
Yeah, sorry about that. I think lost connection there.
No, it's okay. In fact, I think I can ask actually better now that Jaikar pointed out figure 1. So figure 1 in the toolkit, the Legionella control toolkit, I'm curious how you define poorly controlled versus well controlled. Whereas poorly controlled says, detected in more than one location within a system. Well controlled says detection in a few of many tested locations within a system. And as you pointed out, I think it's 2 out of 32. So I'm curious in your opinion, how would you what would you apply statistics? How would you determine what is well versus poorly controlled?
That's a great question. As you had mentioned, so like CDC says, a few and many, right? That could be pretty subjective. And when you're looking at this, when I look at that, for sure, when you're seeing like 1 or 2 or 3, maybe even up to 4 or 5, depending on the level, right? Are we looking at just a few over, like we see here, 1.5, 3.5, for example? That's a pretty low level of Legionella, just compared to the levels that we were talking about before. When I look at this and what we've seen usually across literature is anywhere above that 80% is usually what they would consider well controlled. So that could be like 10,000 samples, at least 80 percent or 90% of those are well controlled. That's a really good indicator. So I usually base that, depending on whatever the sample size is, at least that 80 to 90%, we're looking at a system that's pretty well controlled. But we also have to couple it with those other factors that we're looking at. So are there other bacterial tests like we had talked about? Those are looking good as well. Is this a new system? We don't have a lot of biofilm, those kind of things. But just as a general rule, that's when I say a few of many. I guess a good way you can start with is what is a few out of 10? That's usually like 80%, right? So that's a good way to put it.
Okay, thanks. That's helpful. And just to follow up one more thing, you talked about the system being new in biofilm. Have people done studies to demonstrate or understand how quickly or slowly a biofilm will form? I'm curious because my house is like 120 years old. You could imagine, maybe it's getting ready to walk out of the pipes, or maybe it doesn't matter. You build a location in 6 months, it can establish itself. So I'm curious if that's known.
There have been studies. I would say it's variable. I haven't reviewed them specifically, for this case as well. But just generally, in the work that I have done, is that it's mostly just if you're looking at a time consideration, it has a longer time to develop. But we have seen in newer systems develop relatively quickly. But if you have a building that has, 100 years to it, that's a lot of time that it can continue to build up that biofilm. And so usually that's the concern if, let's say, we have to do a super chlorination event in like a building. Instead of doing one chlorination event where it's a new building that hasn't built up a biofilm, you may do two to really break down that biofilm to get in there. So that's usually when we look at it from a risk of like, how do we stop this? The older buildings may take either a higher level of superchlorination or maybe multiple events. And that's usually the way we look at it.
Great, thank you.
Sure.
So in your opinion, this is a senior 55 plus facility. They might have some immunocompromised people living there. Do you see any risk to people, say, using their showers or the pool?
Well, I would say with the pool, I haven't seen, any of the information around the pool. Those are usually a very separate system and separate chlorination requirements and stuff like that. So I wouldn't be able to speak, specifically to that. But what I can say is based on the information currently at hand that I have that I've reviewed, is that the water system at RGE is appearing to be well controlled and within the guidelines that we would normally see with a water system. Not knowing, so again, there's a few things that are missing, right? We don't know the speciation of the samples. We don't know if there's been continuous, concentration over time, those kind of things that would still need to be considered, as I mentioned before. But given the information I currently have, it does appear it's well controlled and be a minimal risk for Legionella infection. I will caveat, as we had mentioned, sorry, is that, once it gets to an individual home, that is really kind of outside also I would say what we normally would look at a water system level, because once water gets into somebody's property, it's very different. That can sit stagnant. Let's say somebody's on vacation for 2 months, or it's a part-time home. They have water heaters that they maybe don't use a lot. Those can all develop that growth, including even individual shower heads, right? So those individual home risk factors would also be dependent upon the water quality practices within that individual home. But as for the samples we're seeing in the water system as a whole, it looks well controlled.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from anyone? Boston attendants?
Would the UV light help? Would you know?
Like in a personal home?
Right.
Yeah, that's, oh, go ahead.
According to the CDC, they strongly recommend not to just assume that UV filters are the panacea, especially because most of them are combined with activated charcoal pre-filters, which take all of the chlorine out. So if you're away for a few weeks, you have absolutely no chlorine, no, disinfectant in your system whatsoever.
So it's
But so it's not, there's no easy answer, I guess,
For the UV light.
for UV filtration systems.
So that goes on the pipe, the light itself.
yes,
Coming in
That's just a
from the main,
It's a system that is built into your,
and it's filters it.
they have, most of them include activated charcoal pre-filters, which remove chlorine because it makes the water taste better. But
Well,
so
I
there
don't
goes chlorine.
chlorine to come out of the house, except the drinking water.
Can we raise this question with Dr. Capello, and also if you could address, some of our residents have, put, water filtration systems of all kinds in their homes, and if you could just talk about that a little bit?
Yes, that is great. So I'll start with the water filters. One of the best practices that the EPA does outline for individual home monitoring or just even preemptive bacterial growth is to make sure you're changing your water filter routinely. If those stay in place, I mean, think about what's a water filter, right? It just collects bacteria. That's the whole purpose of it, or contaminants. Well, if that doesn't get changed, then you just kind of have this hub that could potentially grow more bacteria, right? So always change those. Always make sure that those are either clean or replaced at normal frequencies. And then with regard to the previous comment on UV systems, there are a lot of different kinds that you can look at. And as was just mentioned, there can be some that are kind of at the front of the house before the water comes in. And it can, if you have a charcoal filter on it, it could scrub some of that chlorine. There are also what they call point of use filters, which you can install, for example, like under your sink. So that chlorine is already entering house, but it would just have that UV light and a screen that would potentially kill the bacteria is the point of the UV light once it enters your glass or your shower and stuff like that. People choose to use those. That's great. That's something that I think you can pick up at like Home Depot, even online for like $100, something like that, maybe $50. But we do know UV is a very effective water treatment practice in general. Most water treatment plants will use those, the new ones specifically. Wastewater treatment also uses those. But what we're seeing here, I guess, kind of back to the levels that we're seeing here, lack thereof, doesn't really indicate that Legionella is a very big concern at this point. But if people are worried about it, they could look into those point of use filters if that's something they so desire. But again, it looks to be well controlled, both in general bacteria as well as Legionella at this point.
Any further questions? I think, I guess if you could hold on, RGE has their own expert that wanted to say a few words.
Yes, we do.
Sure. My name is Michael Old. I'm a consultant with Comprehensive Environmental. Personally been doing work with public water systems in Massachusetts my entire career, 40 years. And agree with all the points that Dr. Capello had noted, that the things that people are observing, temperature changes that fluctuate with the seasons, decreasing or variable chlorine levels at any moment in time is very common. Mass DEP, which regulates public water systems in the state, has specifically mandated for public water systems that if they are chlorinating, because that by itself is not even a requirement, but if they do chlorinate, which the town of Millis does, that they need to ensure that there is always a residual of 0.2 milligrams per liter leaving their treatment facility. What happens after that? There's no specific requirement. Yes, it is always good to have a residual everywhere in the system, but there are a lot of factors that go into that, and it's very difficult to achieve on a regular basis. Dr. Capella had also mentioned, the range of chlorination from 0.2 to 4 parts or milligrams per liter is the upper limit. Nobody wants to be drinking water that has 4 parts in it, and the people closest to the wells would be getting that. One thing I add to the discussion is the chlorine also, in addition to reacting with organic compounds, readily reacts with inorganic compounds, things that we commonly find in New England, such as iron and manganese, very prevalent in groundwater here. And people will notice that by experiencing discolored water. Well, that discolored water is the reaction of chlorine with iron or manganese that then creates a solid that now settles out, gets flushed down the line, etc. But by doing that, it reduces the chlorine that you see as free chlorine still in the system. So what the town is experiencing in terms of those changing chlorine levels is very common. On the temperature side, this is a new issue for me, but in part, I think it's because people don't necessarily they're not checking it. There is no regulation for it, I think has been noted for public water systems. And if you think about in terms of groundwater systems versus surface water systems, this town has a groundwater system, so the temperature, at least coming out of the ground, is much more stable than if it were a surface water supply. There are numerous large systems with surface water supplies. And you can imagine those surface water temperatures fluctuate significantly winter to summer. So I am confident that there are surface water systems that experience cold water tap temperatures similar to what is experienced here.
Mike, do you want to just tell the board and the residents what we've asked you to do?
Oh.
In parts of the water management plan?
Certainly, yes. So I have been tasked with actually coming up with that, essentially the management plan for the system. And looking at it specifically with three components. So one's focused on what the HOA itself could be doing in terms of both monitoring the water quality coming in from the town, which may give you early indications of something happening over time or not, or changes that you should be aware of. And then also things like how often should the system be flushed? And how should it be flushed? Because just going and opening things doesn't necessarily ensure that things like all the dead end legs are getting appropriately flushed. So it has to be done in a very focused, step-by-step process. So we'll be doing that. And then separately, a focus on what the individual residents could be doing. Whether it's a carriage house or a villa. If you want to be proactive, say you've been away for several months, some guidelines, some best practices in terms of what you could do coming back to essentially help flush the system, your own plumbing in your own house, to at least address that, including something like how long you should run it, guidance on how you can easily measure the flow. Kitchen faucet is probably like a gallon a minute or something like that. Most people aren't going to have any idea of how much water is in their piping, including the pipe out to the street. So we'll be able to give some guidance on that, just as a rule of thumb, to help people feel confident that they've flushed out their household. And then thirdly, we'll also be looking at, in conversation with the town, and what they could be doing in terms of monitoring, possibly some adjustments to the chlorination dosage. People will bring up things like remote chlorination stations to boost the chlorine further out in the system. I can tell you they're very difficult to control, and because the flow is so variable. So it's not amenable to having the chemical feed pump go on a consistent basis and be predictable. So we're going to put the plan together with those three different components, and that's going to be evolving over the next couple months.
I think it's gonna be important too, because there are a large number of residents that are either snowbirds, they're gone for several months, or I don't know what they call them, Cape birds or whatever, they're down the Cape for 3 months of the year, summer, so I think Mike's work plan will will certainly give some solid advice in that respect.
There's something, will you produce a, WMP, SOP, so to speak?
Correct.
Okay. Okay, so that's gonna be written down.
Yes,
Okay.
that's within the scope of work.
Okay.
And it'll be put together in such a way that these pieces will be able to be separated so that the homeowners can just look at their section and not have to, if they want to look at the other stuff, great, but they don't have to worry about that if they don't want to.
Plus, the property manager will be able to understand what they need to do based on the readings that come from the information from the town and act on it in a systematic way.
Okay. Do you have a target date for when you would have this plan coalesced enough to?
I believe we've been talking a draft within a couple months to that I would have it to the board.
Mhm.
It should be all done the first week in May, if things go to schedule.
We want to have this in place, obviously, before the.
That's what I'm going to.
Before your words come back, we'll be able to tell them.
Right, right, and right, because you're gonna hit the summer rise and the decrease in chlorination, et cetera.
Exactly.
In your plan, are you doing an outline for how you're gonna be monitoring things like chlorination level, temperature, et cetera? So is there a part of your plan that's about monitoring the conditions?
There is.
Okay,
The idea at the moment is that there would be an online analyzer that is a continuous measurement of chlorine levels and temperature
mhm,
that would be located at the clubhouse,
mhm,
which is essentially the entrance into
Right.
the entire area. And it's a similar device that water suppliers use
mhm,
for monitoring and tracking what they're sending out the door.
mhm,
But that would give us a consistent reference point
mhm.
of those fluctuations over time, et cetera.
Talk a little bit about responsibility. You talk about monitoring at the clubhouse, but we don't own the water that's flowing in the mains, even though we own the pipes.
Mhm.
So even if we measure the chlorine, we can't change it.
Mhm.
So can you talk about responsibility and, you know, the town's responsibility versus the community's responsibility?
Correct. So my understanding in this particular development is that, you know, in part, each individual residence has its own meter. So they are an individual customer of the water department. So the water department of the town is responsible essentially up to the curb.
Mhm.
And then it becomes the private individual's property. So, as Mike had noted, if the data over time shows that there is significant variability in the chlorine levels, or we see something strange going on with the temperatures, there can be follow-on discussions with the town so that it shifts the focus back to the group that actually has the ability to change that, you know, at least in terms of chlorination.
So do I hear you saying that if there's low chlorination in August, which I'm not clear how that would be known inside the development, how that would be known? In other words, are you testing certain residences on an ongoing basis?
This analyzer that I
Mhm.
referenced is literally, it's a device that there is a steady stream of water running through it. Very low, but it's constantly measuring chlorine and temperature.
At what point, as it comes in from the town into the development?
Correct. It would be tapped at the clubhouse just because of, it needs to be indoors.
Right, okay, so it's at point of entry into the development.
Correct.
Okay.
Not
Well,
exactly.
the closest we can get.
Right, no, but I'm
We
saying.
have two major mains coming in, and
Right.
this will be in a building
Mhm,
close to one of the mains.
Correct.
mhm.
And the other one's much further down the road.
But we can't test at a main because we can't tap into.
Right, you're right, no, you can't. That's the town would have to agree to do that. Are you planning to do any monitoring of chlorination or temperature at the houses that have historically shown positive results for Legionella?
Haven't got it that far.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Because
Because,
there's a lot of variables that can affect that.
right, well, and as a former architect, one of my concerns is there's what's coming in. And then there's what happens as it makes its way through all this system of piping.
Yeah.
And some of the piping is larger than it was originally spec'd. And, you know, there's just 300 and some places that water's going that,
Yeah.
right.
And to that point, public water systems. Pretty much all the regulations and the contaminants
Mhm.
that. Get measured and have to meet certain limits. It's all based on what's going on out in the system.
Mhm.
Most of it's back at the source. There are things like the total coliform,
Mhm.
disinfection byproducts like trihalomethanes and HA5s
Mhm.
those are measured in the distribution system.
Mhm.
Take it a step further, there is one set of samples that are taken at customers' residences,
Mhm.
and those are lead and copper samples. And that is the only one that water suppliers are going into and looking at what's going on in somebody's house.
Right. So this isn't regulated, but this is for me, a question, and I don't have an answer, but I think it's an important question, which is Regency Glen Ellen is an unusual consolidation of people of a certain age, and I can say that because I'm 70, so I can, I can say of a certain age.
I would qualify to.
Who have different risk factors
Yeah.
than if you were to do a 5 blocks of Millis at large, okay?
Yep.
And that's one of our criteria for starting to focus in on this, was because it is not a hospital, it's not a nursing home, but it is related by the fact that you've got a population that is more physically vulnerable. And it's a concentrated population of those physically vulnerable people. So that piqued our curiosity and also our concern. So there's what some regulations may cover, and then there's taking care of this situation. So, and again, we can't lean on printed regulations, we can lean on concern
Right.
as a board of health. So, some of the questions I'm asking for me are gonna be important, that whatever plan you generate has some way of responding to. Does this make sense?
Sure.
Okay.
And
Because,
you often walk that line of what is strictly required by the book,
right,
which the town would look at, because if they do more, it's coming out of water rates,
right,
et cetera.
right,
And then, but what's reasonable
right.
and prudent?
Well, prudence, I think, is where we are.
Yeah.
That's what's prudent, so. Okay. So can we get a target date for at least your draft, to be May? Are we talking May, early May?
It's 10 months,
2 months is February, March, so it's beginning of April.
So, we have a, I don't have it in front of me. We have a table of deliverables, right? So we're gonna say an outline here in the next 2 weeks. We've got a couple weeks to look at that, and he's got 30 days to produce the draft, and we've got 14 days, he's got 30 days for the final. So we can show you a draft, I think, 2 weeks, a month, 45 days, 60 days, something like that. You'll see a draft sometime in March.
Sometime in March, okay,
Feels reasonable.
yeah,
And we could provide guidance too for, say, individual homeowners want to check whether they have chlorine present or not. They sell the test strips for like pools.
right.
It's very easy to use, especially if all you're checking is presence or absence.
Right. Either or.
And it's not an expensive endeavor.
It's just active, it says active chlorine.
Correct.
And just to be clear, you said you're not sure yet if you're gonna recommend specific Legionella testing periodically? It's okay, the
We have to
reason,
have those conversations.
yeah, the reason I asked that is I'm curious what you and Tony think. If it should be a requirement to include, if anything is positive, to then do serotype testing. Because I feel like if I would want that done. The risk is, let's pretend it comes up 4. And you know, that's deemed less risky. That's something that you have to accept. On the other hand, it's better to know that. I do think, I just barely glanced, and I don't know if you guys have contacts. I had a hard time finding anyone that tested it. It looks like there are more modern molecular techniques available. However, I think those are mostly academic. So I guess what I would say is that would be what I would think, but you'll have to see if that's actually actionable.
We did have great difficulty
Yeah.
finding facilities to test. That was one of our biggest challenges. We expect that now that we have our experts on board, we'll make a little more progress with that. And work on their advice.
I think Glenn has his hand up online.
Yeah, my question was, so I understand the utility of using the clubhouse for putting in that system to the slow drip or whatever to measure it because it's very convenient. But the clubhouse has been one of the places that has low temperatures because it's close to Orchard Street. And it also has relatively high chlorine levels, and it's been very consistent. The areas further back, Glen Ellen beyond Tupelo, have been inconsistent and low and higher temperatures. So I'm just thinking of a place. Does anybody know if that storage shed, the landscaping thing behind Tupelo, does that have running water in it? I've never been in it. Would that be a place to put something?
I don't believe it does.
It doesn't have running water in it, no.
No. Because somewhere at the other end would be a great place to have 2 of those systems monitoring it. But just a thought.
That's a very good point, because the first unit that I was speaking about is essentially monitoring what is coming into the community from the town. And what you're referencing would be tracking what's actually happening, kind of ideally in the worst spot.
Pick a terminus point.
Yeah.
It's sensible to do. It's a question of, is it possible?
Always possible.
Yeah.
Right, because there's a lot that seems to be going on between entry point and the furthest point from the entry point. Is where all the hotspots have been. So,
And I know there was, just in reading kind of the history, there was some flushing that was done last summer. And then it was noted, and it was like a complete flush of that entire piping. And then it was noted that within 3-4 days, temperature was right back up. But
It's
for the
about
moment,
10 hours.
yeah,
So I just quickly ran the numbers because that's what engineers do. Each time you flush, if you're flushing out and changing over all the water in that community. And I included the 12-inch pipe on Orchard Street because it's all part of this big dead end in the northwest corner. It's roughly 100,000 gallons every time you flush. So it's a significant amount of water. And unfortunately, the times you would want to flush would align with the highest demands that the town experiences because it's warmer weather. So that would be a whole separate conversation with the town of, is that even practical?
affordable.
Yeah, who's paying for the water? That's what the town's gonna ask. And they have limits on how much water they can pump out of the ground,
Right.
so.
And again, that's, you know, there's this is what we're doing, part of the water management plan, and then there's the things that we're working on, don't have an answer yet.
Right.
Part of the water management plan. So,
Yeah, I'll just bring up one more time. I thought what Tony said was compelling, that there are usually these large sort of balloons is one way to describe them before you might have something. So you could imagine maybe in the most likely months to experience that, maybe you do some testing, but maybe you don't do it year round. I could imagine that that's one way to sort of do it without trying, you need to test it in January, right? What are you gonna find?
That would be pointless.
Right, so anyway, just throw that out as consideration that there might be a hybrid approach of not, you know, overboard testing, but doing it at key windows.
Yep.
Any further questions? Go back to our letter of concern. The board satisfied with the progress that has been between Cole and the regions here. On getting a plan together.
Say I am personally, I think it's been pretty impressive that what both sides have done considering the topic,
you know,
the niche nature of it.
Right. Or still have concerns that need to be addressed.
no, I think the next benchmark is the draft, looking at the draft. And then,
And you're gonna work with Dr. Pella.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Deferring to him.
So you guys will be friends, that'd be great.
That is way out of my expertise.
But also the DPW.
Oh, yeah.
We're not working in isolation. And you
Okay,
guys.
so the town's gonna be involved.
And the Mass.
Totally.
Does everyone that lives in Glen feel comfortable with the progress and the way forward?
I believe they are, they do, we've, all this information that we've talked about today, with the exception of Bella's presentation. All the papers are on our website. We've kept the community involved in, every step of the way. So I think they have confidence, and I think it helps them to know that we are working together to, get to the bottom of this and find the right solution and keep the water safe.
They can always go back and see Tony on YouTube.
Yeah.
That's true. It's looking on the
So we have about 6 and resales a year, and that pace hasn't changed. It's not like houses are sitting, waiting to be sold, so that's good. And you know, we don't get involved in the sales process, obviously, but we've recommended that the real estate agents disclose that there is this issue and, you know, point them to the town database that has, you know, any history there. So, you know, we're trying to be fully
Transparent.
transparent, so.
and I think that goes a long way with people and for people. I mean, life always has bumps and roads. It's just how do you respond to them? And, you know, you get to be a certain age and you just know that's life, so. So being transparent goes a long way.
And I don't think it's 70.
So I just want to make sure that people living in Glen Ellen feel okay with the progress and they feel like they're in a safe environment, their water is safe.
I think they do. They're happy that we're working on it.
Okay.
They see that, but I believe that they do.
Is there anything the board needs to do for them?
There was one resident question that was posed after, we asked for some questions from the, residents, and I sent that on. If you could just send that response and address.
I think, this is for the chlorine. And someone had answered that, was you? And said that it's not really a hazard because it was already from the DPW. They already had those results, right?
Correct. This had to do with the trihalomethanes
Yeah.
and HAA fives, which are regulated.
Yeah.
And the town is regulated to take samples. I do not know their specific sample locations, but they are intended to be set up at the furthest points, the highest water age. So the greatest risk of developing those compounds, and kind of related to the Legionella, in order to develop those, there's factors that go into it that increase the risk of having higher concentrations, and it's the level of organics in the source water itself, which tends to be very low for groundwater. And if it's high, it's probably not a true groundwater. And then things like temperature and time. And as all those increase, the potential for them to increase goes up. The levels that the town has seen are right in line with what you see across public water systems with similar groundwater sources. You know, you see something, but it's not even close to being concerning. Compared to when you do work with a surface water supply, totally different story.
Good news.
It is. Yes.
Do we have any other concerns that we need to address for Glen Ellen?
I'm just looking through questions
Okay.
that the community submitted here, and I think they were all addressed.
Yeah.
Are there any other bacteria or water quality issues we should be aware of?
If we look for them, I find them. Pseudomonas.
And yeah, this is one about water stagnation being the most probable cause of our issues here. The most common solution is using installed periodic flush valve systems. Haven't we discussed this
Yeah.
already?
Yes.
Laid that to rest?
Yes.
Okay. And they also talked about what do Sunbelt areas do to flush systems in periods of non-use?
In terms of, well, and one of the things when I started looking at chlorination rates and it's hard to find that online a lot of times, but you can make calls. The warmer you get, the higher the chlorination rate is, because it dissipates faster and you also have a higher mean temperature that you're treating. So, and the idea is if you put more chlorine, it dissipates, so you kind of left and right hands are doing the same thing. So it's not one size fits all depending on what part of the country you live in. And like you said, it does matter if it's groundwater or surface water, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, so that is, that's the answer to what Sunbelt, they put more chlorine.
To the point where we would drink it, this is disgusting.
Right, exactly. It's like, this is pool water. Right?
Yeah.
Right. So, you do what you do what you can do. So, in terms of the question around what else can we do about the water, you can remind that person that Millis has some state-of-the-art water filtration system at this point. We are ahead of the curve around getting rid of PFAS. And PFAS continues to show more and more long-term chronic health compromising. So good news is they're in Mills with PFAS.
There's carbon too, so it's taking out a lot more than just
Right.
PFAS, the carbon.
Will that also take
Yeah.
other inorganic compounds like the
Yes.
manganese and lead, take
Yes.
that out as well? Oh, great.
Yes, the safest water.
We do, we are ahead of the
City
curve.
will run for the money.
Yes. So that's positive about being in Regency Glen Ellen water system. Gotta again, it's life. All right.
I think that covers the questions. for the
Everybody
residents.
knows about it?
Unless,
Okay. Unless someone online
unless there's someone still has a question.
don't see any hands popping up. Anything for Dr. Capello before you? Any questions?
Just, you mentioned the testing in the summer. If we do any testing, and that's still to be determined, but you'll be aware of that before we do. We're partners now in this effort, and, you know, we're not gonna just do it and keep it secret or anything like that. We,
Yeah, we wanna control the conditions, we'll do it.
Yeah.
According to what.
Because there was no comments last time about how we collected the sample.
Yeah, right,
Something that
exactly.
the team did, and they weren't really trained to do it, and
Right,
the time, even the hydrant testing was done,
right.
you know, 30 seconds of flushing versus 2 minutes, and, you know, it wasn't fully standardized, so
Right.
let's leave it at that.
Well, and that's what I would look for in kind of the seasonal part of the water management plan.
A very
Right.
specific procedure.
Right. Yeah. So, sounds good. Okay.
Any further questions or discussions on water at Glenallen? All right, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Guess I know this before us. Is everyone online? Please.
It will be coming to your birthday party.
Oh, okay.
No.
But it's 6 months. You can't bring me a present.
Like, I knew that was like a scam or
I
something.
know, well, I saw it, it was like, and I'm like going down my devices, and I delete them, and but, you know, then I'm like, what's my original password, cause I have to change them. That, should I send out another email saying don't open? I'm like, no, because then, you know, don't open, but open line.
Exactly.
All righty, thank you all.
Thank you.
Those are not any of us close.
Oh, I knocked over earlier.
I think these are children.
I was gonna say, those look like
They
little,
look small.
little people.
Leave them on the corner.
Excuse me.
Right, 7:36, we just wanted to have a quick discussion on transferring board duties. That was something that we found that it still has your name for the state on, does that?
State?
Yeah, like,
Yeah, let me show you.
when we transfer chairs, we all transfer like a whole bunch of stuff, because there seemed to be some stuff that your name is attached to. That's
But
what
the question is, was it the last time I was the board chair, or was it like 4 years ago board chair?
It's like something from like,
I know, that's what I'm thinking. I think it's like probably 2 cycles ago. Heather, said she was gonna
update the
update,
list,
right?
yes,
Okay.
and she sent it out to the police and the fire.
Okay.
They will know. It's good.
That's good.
Versus me, where I'm going through a deja vu experience going,
Why are they?
why are they calling me? I did this last year.
This is the,
This is that site,
this way.
you're on it, do you want me to be on it? But you're as the BOH member chair.
I'm primary, you're secondary, Jaika, and the third is Mike Kaczynski. This is what,
Do you want to still?
just in case
do that?
something happens, a public health issue, and I'm not there for some strange reason. knows what?
Do you want to go to
So
you?
that's why I've been getting those emails. Hey,
The alert ones.
yes, the
Right,
alert
right.
ones.
Yeah, right.
Which, but see, I haven't been getting them. I actually started getting them when I wasn't
Right.
chair anymore.
Yeah.
So I just was like, ignore, you're not chair anymore.
I never got it.
I never, that's what I'm saying. I've only gotten them in since like the last 3 or 4 months.
I
Interesting.
mean, it's because you're
Yeah.
still on this thing?
But still, I don't know, but I haven't been getting emails except for the last 3 or 4 months.
It's weird, but
So-
what's this thing? It's DPH, so do you want to continue to be whatever this is?
Well, do you wanna be, so I guess the question is, then you'd have to put this in your to-do for every time we change the chair.
Yes,
Right.
Yeah,
Then that has to get updated, which makes the most sense. I
yeah,
mean, if you're chair, then,
Plus, it's good to have some mechanism, because if all of us decide not to do it,
like, what
we're
if,
still getting the emails, that's.
I know.
useless.
right,
I'm
right.
not
So,
kidding me.
so that would make sense for Heather, that it would have to be on Heather's to do, like whenever we change the chair.
Okay.
There's a checklist of
Yeah.
all this having to get
This
updated,
thing.
right? So the contacts,
Yeah,
you know, the public safety contacts have to be updated, and this DPH.
a hand too.
is there anything else that
A
you're?
hand.
Oh,
H.A.
don't know.
I didn't even know it was on this, other than, I just was like, started getting these emails, and then I was forwarding them to John going, I don't know why I'm getting it, are you getting this? Remember I kept saying,
There's web EOC, and then there's high. HHAN, I think it was.
HMCC? What is that?
Yeah, I would say it's a different thing.
Well, the DPH one.
WUC and HAN or something like that. It's a different one. It's
Yeah, no,
public
those were
health.
fun to get because they did the, what else? They, remember that's where I sent the flu, like where they changed the protocol around the flu shots. I
Yeah,
sent it
right,
to you
right.
and said,
Yeah, right.
okay,
That's the alert.
right, that was the alert.
Yeah.
But that was like the first time, that was the second time I got that. So
Oh,
why
wow.
would I just now?
You should be getting like 10 a month.
I don't.
So, okay. So
I don't.
understand. Maybe because you didn't actually confirm it, but then you got the most recent one.
Which
So I-
was what? No, and I haven't been, I've
Right.
been just ignoring the emails because I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
because I'm not chair, so I figured. If I'm not getting them. Well, you're welcome to get them. Okay, but
So I can switch the name to this.
All right, yeah, how many months left do you have?
I don't know. I think this is Matt's turn, so.
Yeah,
next
yeah.
time is my turn, so.
Right, so you'll get like 3 months or 4 months and
Okay,
then
yeah.
you'll start getting them, maybe. Or maybe I'll just keep getting them. I don't know.
Hey, might I say something? Ethan is on here. If I may say, hi, Ethan.
Hi, Ethan.
You there?
Where is he?
He's there.
Have his name there.
Yeah, he's there. He told me he was gonna call in.
He's been quiet.
Hey.
Yeah.
Hey there, I just heard me. Good to see you folks. Hang on.
Where's he? There he is. Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear
I
you.
can hear you.
Okay, great. No, it's nice to I was very interested in tonight's meeting, so I decided to join on and here, let me unmute. There I am. Wait, hold on. And I shaved as well, so I got rid of my beard. There you go. Oh my word. That's another discussion. But anyways, it was very interesting. And so thank you. Yeah. And it's nice to hear the meeting. I'm happy to you already closed this discussion on Glen Ellen, but I think you're approaching it in a good positive way. And I'm looking forward to the water management plan. So I think that's really critical, and I think that's where it needs to go. So overall, that was but congratulations, folks. It's good.
They didn't do anything, but.
I mean, the devil's going to be in the details, but yes, this is I'm not that you're asking me, but I see this as a very positive approach, and it looks like people are working in the right direction. So that's good. And we don't know. I mean, there's a lot of unanswered questions still. So, but yes. Anyway, so yeah, it's good to see the group.
I see you back.
Okay, thank you. Anything else for me? I'm happy to.
You've been following along for the water management plan too, so.
What's
Right.
that? I'm sorry.
You can follow along as they send in their water management plan and I'll get their progress going and stuff like that.
Yeah, no, I think it's as they said, I think without going to all the details, because you already had a couple of hours on that, and the agenda item is over, but there's some very good questions that were asked, some very good discussion. And I think there's a lot to also sort of mull over and think about as as I said before, the real issue here is what's in the management plan, and reviewing that will be the next critical step as you approach it. And it is a unique situation, or it appears to be a unique situation. So, all right, congratulations. This is a good approach. Yes.
Was that the full discussion of yearly duties?
Unless there's anything else the court can think of.
Oh, yeah.
So let's see, there's the contact of the public safety officials, there's now this.
And Heather list you're on that you come across.
That's, yeah, no, well, I didn't even realize I was on this list. I just kept getting this email saying I had to do this thing. And then, and I tried logging in on the last email I got and I was like, they're like, put in your code. I'm like, I don't have a code. Then I'm like, see, I didn't have to respond to this.
Right.
And then just deleted the email. Cause nobody gave me the code. So I have no, I am clueless on why I'm on this.
Well, let's start a list.
Yes, well, so we know two things.
Okay, yeah.
Well, there's the usual when anybody, once a year you have to like, don't we have to like do the health agent and
Health agent,
it
yeah.
was once a year.
Yeah.
That's in July usually.
If it's 12 o'clock at night.
It's 12 o'clock.
You guys go, 'cause I'm sleeping. No, just kidding. They can wake me up and have me go down. I've done it before. I've done it plenty of times. Whatever, I mean.
Well, I see, in the old days, I would have ignored the call, but my mom's 93 and when you get a call at 10 o'clock at night and nobody calls me, I mean, everybody texts now and I'm just like, call at 10 o'clock at night, this cannot be good. And then
the town mills or something?
it was, so it says fire, it said fire department. So then I was like, fire department, then of course, you know, I've got kids, so then I'm thinking maybe they're calling me, because, you know, so 10 o'clock at night, phone call, trigger. So I will not mind getting those. You are welcome to get them, and then you are welcome to get them. And then I was trying to like make sure you got your due as chair, so I'm like, you know, trying to find you.
But I'm the one who, I'm the person who's under
The first
command,
call.
first
I know.
command. And so unless I say, well, you know, I'm really tired. I can't do it. I'll let you guys do it. But no, I 99% of the time we'll do it.
Okay, so it's like nothing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it worked out fine, but it was just, it was like, you know, but I think I woke up Heather trying to find your phone number.
Next, we don't have each other's phone number.
We don't have each other's phone numbers, you know, and then Heather's like, why haven't you called John? And I'm like,
Why did you call John?
okay, fine, I'll call John, let's wake up another person.
It surprised me they didn't call me to find out. Because they have all my,
Your information.
I would think you'd be the
My
person,
numbers.
because you're like the employee,
Right.
right?
and I don't understand, but.
You know, versus the volunteer.
We'll hopefully fix that one. Fix this other one.
Yeah, so we got two, but yeah, if any other emails come across that I'm used to deleting, because I don't know what they are for, then I will call Heather and
We'll
say,
look and see, like, is this something I'm on?
right,
I
we should like
I
trace
don't
this
delete
back.
anything.
Maybe-
I just
maybe-
ignore it.
Maybe they know, maybe they know I live in Attleboro, so it's gonna take 45 minutes to get there.
Right.
And they say, we get 45 minutes or 5 minutes if we get some of the people who live in town, do it. So, you know, who knows? Maybe that's one of the reasons. I
Could
don't
have
know.
been the sorter, yeah,
You never know.
yeah,
They had your number in their phone.
yes, they have my number. Oh, no,
I'm surprised Kathy isn't still on some of these things.
she is.
Oh, is she?
She is, they said, and I said, why, so then I did say, why are you calling me? I said, I am on the board, but why are you calling me? I said, I'm not the chair, and I said, well, we've got you and Kathy Lannon, and then there was a third person that I didn't. Right, so Kathy's agreed because she's a nurse, and
Sure.
has been on the board for like 30 years, she's agreed.
Does she wanna go out at 11 o'clock at night? Like-
She will do it if nobody else is available, yes, that's like her public service, so she will
They
do
ever called me?
it. Because nobody had your number. I didn't, they didn't, Heather didn't. I tried, believe me, I'm like,
Get my number?
not at home. Cause I
Oh,
called,
she didn't, oh.
yeah, so this is, remember, now it's 10:30 at night and
Yeah.
I'm calling, her husband answers, it's like, she's asleep.
I think
Should I wake her up? And I'm like, yeah. I'm on a mission. I want my chair to be able to be the chair.
Well, we fixed that.
I was gonna say, now you can see why no one wants to be the chair here. I don't know if the other committees.
It's only 1 year though. This, to me, it's a little odd. It's only 1 year. that
I know, you kind of sort
I
of build
mean,
up momentum.
I'd say 2 or 3 years would be best,
You know.
but.
Yeah, we should change that.
Can we change it? Can we change it?
Yeah, cause I took Matt's turn, like, I agreed to take Matt's turn, so I
That's
have to take
true.
my turn, which is this
Right.
year.
I was really just being a smartass, but I'm not gonna say that.
Wait, this is
It's up
My
to, I
turn,
don't
this is
know.
next year, this is Matt's turn. I'm fine with it,
Do a better job
You
of
want to
advertising.
come?
unless you really wanna do
Do I
it.
Want to come to Chad? Not?
I don't, but I will.
She'll take you, she'll take you.
I'll take it unless I've been horrible, like you can tell me, you're horrible.
We would. You're not. They told me that a couple times. It was
Yeah,
wrong.
you are horrible. Oh, listen to this.
What?
It's because I'm yelling.
It's all documented.
Yeah, it's all documented.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Oh, I know. It's like the two of us. No, that is not so. I don't think we've ever done anything other than go, oh, good, you're gonna show up
Right,
again.
no, I don't
Good."
have to do this, wonderful.
Yes. All right, okay, so
We
now.
can actually do meeting minutes,
Yeah,
wanted to, we're ahead of schedule. It's
Yeah, let's do
7:50.
it, let's do it.
Let's do that minute.
yeah, I actually thought we'd be here till like 11, so.
I did
can't-
too.
can't-
Yeah, so did I figured that
You know, I'm
would be the
rough.
case.
My little pine bar and my water, I didn't have dinner, and at some point I was like, I'd be like going, what did they say?
We're ahead
Yeah.
of schedule, it's awesome.
I know,
Just these minutes done,
I know, right?
we should be like done.
Doctor's report, director's report.
Let's go for 8.
Let's go for 8.
So you have the, I have one here too.
It's just one, right?
Mhm.
Just asking if you're pulling up the meeting minutes, I was just looking at them.
For some reason we could.
You got
take us
close
some
on my-
time to go.
Yeah, no, I got Dropbox stuff.
And I shut all my pages down for some reason.
Director's report, but I don't see the nurse's report, I don't see my meeting minutes.
I think they're up there.
But I like to look at them here on a small screen. Okay. Oh, they're there, meeting minutes. Okay, I'm gonna 606. Go for 612. Under 628, resident of Dover is concerned potential site. S versus C, yeah. With 3 40B apartment building. And about versus about.
It would abut, yeah,
Abut.
take out the O on the, that would,
What's this?
that would about their
I
property.
totally missed all that.
I'm sorry?
That's why I like looking at the little.
Yeah,
It's easier to.
340B,
go
right?
the Street that would abut, not about their road. Just take out the O. Good,
The what? I'm
right there. It should be
About?
a but. It shouldn't be about, it should be a but.
What? What? ABUT?
yep.
Yeah.
Yes,
It's
but.
Am I gonna
the
in trouble
building,
for that or what? ABUT?
no, it's
It's
the
about.
buildings abut the property.
ABUT.
Alright,
Yes.
see, there are lines, and even this is saying, this is weird.
But that's not wrong.
No, I think it has, does it have 2 T's?
Yeah, mine
Is
is
it two
two.
keys?
I don't know, but it is saying.
Let's see what we
I
put you
think
down.
it has.
Yeah.
Because, because a butter has.
Yes.
2 T's.
Okay.
Is an
I thought it-
archaic, you can spell it either way.
Oh.
Yeah.
The double T is an older version,
So now it's,
yes,
it's complaining about double keys.
well, that's
Interesting.
because it's archaic, it's an
I thought you had creative
older
license.
version. And
One
this
T
is
or
the
2.
newer version
Two.
of Bill Check, so,
But,
yeah.
Okay, so that is a term, that is a Webster dictionary term. Okay.
So is it clear what the 40B means then?
Maybe put, instead of the number 3, just so you're designating it's not a 340B,
Right,
it's 3 separate.
Starting at 3 dash, I don't know.
I think she
Say,
means
put
the
that-
word, she means the word 3.
Yeah,
Just so it's clear, it's not a,
Yeah.
40B is a special designation.
Is that gonna be clear if someone comes back in a year to look at the notes, what 40B means?
I think everyone knows what 40B
Yeah,
is.
just making sure.
So I would request that where that sentence is, Dan requested a copy of well and septic locations. What well and septic locations?
From the note 91 Dover,
Right,
Resident.
so, right, there,
91 Dover.
Somebody put that in?
Dan
Requested a
American,
copy of 91, what?
91 Dover Road. Took the F.
I was gonna say you wrote in between the O and the F. There you are.
Road. Well, in septic locations. Potential contaminated soil on Bridge Street, that was covered under the wood fill, doesn't get well tested, performs the fault contaminated. Why, did they ever get the results back to us?
Yeah, I was curious about that.
We haven't gotten any results
Okay.
from them, nothing yet.
Okay, so it's a one elegant system proposed. Improvement to site signet work rate. Approval. Cable. Very hydrogen site taking consideration, those are for our variances. De-restriction. Where? That sounds like what we talked about. Okay, 79. $100, yeah, not good. So 810.
Did it mention that you allowed it to, the well to go in variance or something, did it say that in this?
Yeah, it's a little bit above.
You guys voted that it was, that you could allow it.
Yeah.
Approve the septic system with the variance and. Reduction from existing well to new leach field to be 72.8 instead of 100. Was there? Sufficient. Because those were three factors or requirements.
So there must be a vote here though, right? I'm positive there's a vote somewhere here
Yeah, there was, I thought.
Yeah, with motion,
to allow the well to be less than 100 feet.
yeah, we did.
You're saying it's not captured.
Yeah, so we just need to say under 655. Get the motions.
No, it does say that, the first line, Chair Hayes moved, member
okay.
LeBlanc seconded,
It's up the top.
Where is it?
it's in the first line.
Chair Hayes moved, member LeBlanc seconded as unanimously.
Okay, yeah, all right, yeah.
Yeah, I was looking at the.
I was like,
There it
how
is,
did I miss that?
On 3 factors, okay, right,
Yeah.
there, it's based on.
We just want to spell out why we gave the variance
Okay,
Yeah,
well,
very clearly.
I thought that was really great because we haven't altered. And again, it's just about posterity, not really
Yeah.
anything else.
It's like a year from now, someone said, I'm gonna put my well.
Yeah.
Why'd you do it for this guy? Alright, wait a minute. Okay. Okay. Looks good to me. Alright, so we can change that to, motion to accept, minutes from 15th, 2025. As written. Can I get a second?
second.
Okay, all in favor?
I,
So you can change that from draft to.
How do you change that on here like this? File,
You gotta do a save as, create a copy.
create a copy?
Yeah. We just gotta change the word draft on the top of that.
And where is the copy then? Download copy.
Yeah. And then we change the other thing.
Again.
Yeah.
Oh, the other's the, okay. Where is that download?
Should be on your desktop. Or under your word.
And I can just use this right there, but that, it's on the other thing.
You
So-
change the draft and then.
Draft, this has gotta go to what again?
Just make it approved. And save that as approved.
Okay. Download copy, where does it go? Error,
Error.
Dropbox.
You mean error. Let me save it to your desktop.
Yeah, that's what I would like to do is just, but it doesn't lie with this thing. Export maybe, I don't know. Download as a PD?
No, you don't wanna do
No,
that.
you don't sell it. Yeah.
Oh, you can just do rename, it says.
Rename.
If you go down to,
Okay. Yeah, I just changed it from draft to.
yeah, cause it saves the version, so yeah, that's cool.
And then
Save and return to.
save and return to meeting minutes.
Yeah. Now we should see it in there. Yeah, now it's approved.
And what's going on? So let me see what this does.
It says right there, approved.
Draft though, right there. Oh, and here,
Yeah,
okay,
below
oh,
is
yeah.
the approved one.
Okay, I see what you're saying, right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, good.
Okay, perfect. All right,
There you go.
801, bust out director's report. Mm-hmm. Oh.
Okay, the food service inspections, all by Angelo. He's done those and, they're all good. He does a really good job with these. Title V inspection report, 130 Forest Road in Rockville Meadow, they did Title V and passed it. Septic test and plans, 77 Dover Perk, I did 139 Dover Perk, and they both are handing in plans. And should be all right.
Can I ask a question about
Yeah.
the Rockville Meadows? Was that a repair or a new install or? the
No,
telephone?
it's when someone
Sell?
sells,
I was
they've
gonna
got,
say, so it's
they've
an
got it.
inspection?
Yeah,
Okay.
and that's like a condominium down there, aren't it? Is.
Yeah, over 55 community.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think they have to have a T5 done every 3 years, something like that.
Really?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they are.
Really?
Yeah, I think the state law says you're a certain size. You're a condominium with a septic, shared septic, so you have to get it done every 3 years, T5.
Really?
And that way people
Wow.
can use it who are gonna move. They don't have to just do it every 6 months, get it done. They could say
Oh, yeah.
3 years, maybe 2 years,
Every-
maybe 2
They'd
years.
have to get it. Right, yeah. Not interesting, makes sense.
Housing 58 Union Street, we know that one.
Right. Oh, I wanted to ask you, so you sent out the letters, you put different agencies in touch with him or
Yeah,
him, okay?
yes.
Any follow-up on this?
I went to COA.
Mhm.
I won't get too far into it, but
Mhm.
she gave me the number to the elder services,
Mhm.
and they're going out to check them,
Okay, okay.
and, you know. Yeah, I mean, that's.
Okay, so there's follow-up within the town.
Yeah, and they gave him a list of all the different, like 10 pages worth of people he could call
Okay, good,
and tell him what, they get into everything,
Mhm.
social services,
right,
cleanup and stuff like that,
okay, good,
so.
okay.
And I think this is gonna take them, they said to call elder services back within a month,
Mhm,
and we'll tell you what the deal is,
mhm.
and what they feel is an issue.
So you're
Not-
gonna call elder services and,
They're gonna call me.
yes, okay, who's calling who?
I think they're calling me, cause I gave them my, email, and they said, we'll email you back when we have done an inspection.
Okay, okay, good,
I remember them saying that to me.
okay,
And these are all things done during the month. And Heather mailed the well letters, 262, and that's for the if they move or they put a new well in, PFAS testing.
Mhm.
It's gonna be interesting.
So she mailed 262
Yeah,
letters?
yeah.
Okay, that's the number of wells in the town.
Yeah,
Known wells.
well, known wells.
Known
That's what we
wells,
learned.
that are-
Yeah.
it's the known wells, and there's many others, so. Yeah,
Mailed letters with known chicken owners, which is.
again, known, chicken owners.
You have to like.
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
Yeah.
The idea being that if there's like avian flu,
Yeah.
you can contact those people and say, hey, it's in the area and do a protocol for your chickens to not get killed by it, so. But, New England being very,
Do we do that for duck owners? Cause there's people that have ducks. and
Yes.
ducks would
No,
also get-
hey, well, maybe.
we should,
No.
because.
They would also
chickens-
get
Yes,
avian flu
absolutely,
and-
absolutely,
Yeah.
so we should. Actually, that's a good agenda.
Yeah.
That's a good agenda.
How many people with ducks?
Oh, yeah, there are people with ducks.
Yes, oh, yeah, cause duck eggs are very
Yeah,
yummy.
very popular.
What do they do without a pond?
I think they get like a pool.
They get a big
Like-
pool,
Like a,
yeah,
like a kiddie pool
Yeah.
thing.
Really?
yeah, oh, yeah,
Huh.
yeah.
Or it is a pond or something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, it's kiddie pools are the way to go.
Get water on it.
Yeah, then.
Then you dump it, clean it,
Yeah,
but your ducks go
Right.
back in. But for regulating chickens, why not ducks? Like, it's the same.
Yeah, right,
it's the
right.
same thing, it's.
Fowl, like fowl, right? Fowl?
Yes, fowl is
Fowl.
fowl,
Is it foul or?
Is it fowl?
FOWL, yes,
Is chickens fowl?
Yes,
Chicken-
Yes.
they're foul.
they are a type of fowl,
Ducks are fowl too?
yes. Yes,
What
So
about
the
hawks?
regulations for foul or?
now hawks are raptor,
Yeah, they are, that's right, they're dinosaur, like.
Yeah,
Yeah, I know,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
and
so
then,
super excellent.
No,
Heather created the emergency contact for the fire and police, call people out when they should. Call people like me first, and then the chair second, so.
versus everybody, but should they call?
Which is just funny.
Sorry. I really tried, I was just like, it's not mine, but, no, because I felt bad, because it was like, okay, here's one of the perks, and yeah, you should experience this, it's, it's an experience. Hey,
Last one,
Yeah,
the state tabletop, which we went to,
Yes.
What was that?
yeah.
It was for emergency planning for the town for like we had a disaster,
Mhm.
helping the town get prepared for like, say we had to open shelter.
Mhm.
Our plan.
Do we have one?
Sort of, yes, sort of.
It's
Sort of.
not
Yeah, we
really
have
detailed.
something.
Are all the supplies still in the same place?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Somewhere in the basement.
Somewhere in the basement, like you have to like.
Yeah.
Make your way to find what you actually
But-
need.
We should have the plan be these people get out cots, these people get out. food,
These
water,
people
supply,
figure out where the
Who's-
stuff is.
who's doing it?
Yeah,
And spell it all out, cause
and update it
then
with.
who's running your shelter?
I know,
It's usually me or someone from the,
Yeah, but you can't run a shelter
DOH.
24/7 for all.
I know, right, right.
You
that's
gotta
right.
call these volunteer organizations like MRC,
That's right.
but it's getting that on paper to say this is what to do. So
Right.
if You can't get here, you're stuck in your town.
right,
Yeah.
And we're all sitting here going, huh, I heard there were.
It's the first I've heard of it.
Scary basement.
We have a bunch of kids to cost down there. We have a bunch of costs down there, like 20 or 30 of them.
Maybe sometime we do a
field trip.
yes, we'll do a field trip, look at us, emergency stuff for the town, so we know it's there and we can like plan accordingly. I don't know.
This building,
Yeah,
Yeah, apparently.
actually, I wanna see this basement.
basement. With like all sorts of stuff.
Shouldn't the town have like that all figured out? Cause we're going to be sitting there going, oh, we heard there was something there.
Well, and probably once a year we should check things, cause depending on what kind of cots they are,
The
there's.
mice could chew them.
That's what I'm saying, the mice could chew them, or if it's cotton, the really old cots, then those fall apart after a while, and. Yada, 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 so you might think you have 25 working cots, but you actually get down there and there's 4 working cots.
Sure, they
With a
got
bunch of
stuff.
junk.
Yeah.
So there follow-ups to this meeting, or is this a one and done?
What's that?
Is there a follow-up to that meeting, or is it just?
Usually it's
Um,
mandatory meeting.
I think it's a
Do
one
the
and
state,
done.
the tops, the tabletop? I think, did they say anything that we have to come back?
Mandatory for some sort of funding that we attend.
Funding,
But
right.
each.
Oh, they got to mark that you.
Yeah,
Yes,
right, right,
Like it's the
yeah.
state.
They don't have to mark that you're really ready,
You
just
just
that
have
they
to
told you to get ready. Yeah,
We said show up, but,
Right,
Yeah.
but we should be ready.
it's the bureaucratic way.
yeah, makes sense.
I don't know. Shouldn't we be ready? We got some plan.
Oh,
So we got
so,
more plan than most towns, but.
yeah, yeah.
Where's that?
I was gonna ask you, at some point you were like taking note of, gotta update this next, gonna update this, what's next on the
We're
update?
working on the septic regs right now.
Okay.
So, for septic, just a quick,
Mhm.
Sherborne, which is, I think Sherborne was referenced a bunch of times in the meeting as being like, they have the same levels that we have in our septic. Sherburne has a lot of wells, so I've actually met one of the chairs, they have 2 chairs, they're a
Mhm.
5-person board.
Oh, okay.
But it's related to the wells of town, cause pretty much everyone in Sherburne has a well,
Mhm.
so it's all a water protection area.
Mhm.
So it's like. We have 252 known wells. Do we reduce our protections, cause instead of just having a water protection area, which is set by the state for the groundwater for the town supply, now you got. Drinking water everywhere,
Mhm.
so that's
Mhm.
that would be the argument for keeping stricter regulations, is to protect those people who are drinking well water.
Right.
Because if we reduce our regulations, we're reducing the quality of their drinking waters. So that would be the argument for not changing it, and that's kind of why Sherburne doesn't, and they have stricter than the state.
Mhm.
So something to think about, but yeah, we're still reviewing the septic. After we finish the septic, we're gonna go to the tobacco.
Mhm.
And probably ducks, actually.
Ducks are cool.
We like ducks.
We do like ducks.
Well, look at the chicken regs or whatever,
Yeah, yeah.
fowl chicken.
We'll just change it to fowl,
There you go.
which includes,
Yeah, right.
Why is it named foul? Foul seems to be foul. It's foul. Why do they name it foul?
FOWL,
There's a reason.
Oh,
FOWL, it's not FOUL.
okay, right, okay. Okay, okay, that
He's
makes sense.
thinking it's foul.
I thought it was foul. Don't go near it, it's foul.
Boy, the other fowl.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're still working on septic, we're still stuck on septic, and I think we're waiting for. Dan
Dan.
American was gonna, you know how he sent us like the changes that they proposed?
Yeah.
I was asking for like references for those changes, like, show me, I want
Right,
to do this right, I want to do it safely, let's look at references and see what the scientific community says and why these numbers.
versus industry
Yes.
desire for,
Yes,
I agree.
cause just talking to Sherborne like this, like. There's a
Well,
reason for it.
And I like Sherburne because they kind of do what they think is best.
Yeah.
You know, it's a small enough town, they can do that, it's a high income town, so they can do that, so, and like you said, they have a lot of, protected areas. And they put aside a lot of common land for having reservations, so that to me is a nice standard to at least study. You know, and then go from there versus bottom of the standards
Yeah.
and argue up,
Yeah.
yeah, so, okay. So that will come on the agendas fairly soon, I would think.
Probably should be popping back on by the next meeting or two,
Okay.
so. Take a look at septic regulations and.
And yeah, and there's, you know, the intention behind a regulation is
Yeah.
important.
Yeah.
So,
Was like talking to Shermore kind of answers.
yeah.
Like, why is there stricter, why are they different, like, and they have good.
Yeah, good
Like,
reasons
it's
for
not
it.
just we don't want them to build it. You know,
Well, that's the problem,
I'm breaking that,
I know, right, versus making money off of
yeah,
not having to do as stringent,
yeah. Something to think about,
yeah,
I definitely want
balance,
scientific
yeah,
reasoning.
Makes sense.
okay. So do we have a date for the next meeting?
Oh, good point.
Next meetings. Do we still want to?
I'm thinking not, because I haven't seen it in the Monday spot.
They're trying to get that room. Yeah, we did.
At the upstairs, right?
Yeah, that's the better room.
16th, you think?
16th is President's Day.
Yeah, that's.
16th is President's Day?
Yes, is
Okay.
there,
Is it?
Yep, it is.
yeah. So you're not here.
Yeah, he's not
Yeah.
here.
We could do the Tuesday.
I can't do that 17th.
Okay, what about the 23rd?
I can do the 23rd.
I cannot.
Okay.
But the
I'm
24th.
out of town that week.
Oh, that whole week.
Yeah.
Is that vacation week?
No.
Or the week before that, so you have vacation week and then you have work.
Yeah.
Suppose we
So
could,
we gotta go back to the 9th, 10th.
can we do the 9th? 9th or 10th?
I can do the 9th, let me check the 10th, I can do the
9th
10th.
is good. Oh, wait,
Yeah, so the 9th, because John's already here, so. Where are we in terms of?
I can do the 9th, but I'll have to probably join from the car for a majority of it. Cause I have a meeting until 5:30 that day.
About the 10th. I know John means you have to stay later, but.
That's open for me, but I understand the thing with John, so. I'm not against calling in.
Yeah, I don't think we'd have anything like
Don't have anything we have to
really
be
super
like,
crucial.
Okay.
This one is good, everyone was here.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay, so on the 9th,
but Monday is February 9th, 6 o'clock, Board of Health meeting.
okay.
Should we do, March just to book the room?
I'm not about.
yeah, maybe
They're
March,
still here.
because we can
Yeah, they're still
book
there.
2 months, I heard,
Okay,
for the
yeah,
upstairs.
I just don't wanna lose them.
So then do the 9th, about the 9th of March? Monday
Can
again.
you do March 9th?
Sorry, 1 second. I'm trying to put this in for the 9th before I forget. So March 9th.
Yeah, can you also do March 9th?
Yep.
So we can get our booked. I like that room a lot better, they have better seats up there.
Mm-hmm. We'll do it.
I'm confused why we couldn't get those rooms, cause I went to the wrong one and it's not being used.
No, they said that it was booked out.
I don't know, I went up there
In there.
and it was all the lights were off. Doesn't mean they didn't join an hour later.
Okay. Okay, I guess we're ready to adjourn. Motion to adjourn the Board of Health meeting for Town of Millis. At 8:19, okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.